Welcome everyone. Today we have our special guest, Dr. Celena Scheede-Bergdahl, and she's here to talk to us about the topic of exercise as your secret weapon. Donc, j'aimerais souhaiter la bienvenue aujourd'hui à Dr. Celena Scheede-Bergdahl et elle va nous parler sur le sujet d'exercice, notre arme secrète. Celena is accomplished in the field of kinesiology. She holds some degrees, one of them being a Bachelor in Exercise Science from Concordia University. She also has a Master of Science in Kinesiology from l'Université de Montréal, and she holds a doctorate in Medical Physiology from the University of Copenhagen in Denmark. She's also currently a faculty member in the Department of Kinesiology and Physical Education at McGill University. She's also been working with a Preoperative program at the Montreal General Hospital, contributing to the prehabilitation and early mobilization following a major surgery. This helps patients prepare and recover faster when faced with certain surgeries. So welcome, Celena. Thank you for taking time to be with us today.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. I was going to do a lot of this in English, mais s'il y a quelqu'un qui veut que je répète quelque chose en français, c'est un grand plaisir pour moi. J'espère que vous avez beaucoup de passion pour mon français. En tout cas, vous êtes toujours bienvenue à me poser des questions en français aussi. I don't like to be too formal, so if you would like any sort of a clarification, please just let me know, and I'm happy to. If I didn't explain something well enough, I'll be happy to go over it again. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm very excited.
We also have the option for chatting at the bottom of the Zoom screen. So if you have a question and you don't want to forget it, write it in chat, and then we'll be able to get to them at the end as well. All right, so let's ask some questions to better understand the world of kinesiology. What got you interested in this field, Celena?
I'm going to take a very long story and make it short. I used to work as a company manager for Alberta Ballet in Alberta. And when I was at the point of retiring, because it's a lot of touring and a lot of being away from home. I'm originally from here. I moved out there and I decided to come back home. And I had thought to go into physiotherapy to work with ballet dancers. And then when I went into exercise science at Concordia, rather than being attracted, I still was attracted to working with athletes, but I started to become very attracted to working with people with chronic diseases or with special conditions. And so that's kind of where I ended up taking my research interests to and my work interests to. And so I've been a practicing kinesiologist now for about 25 years in the Montreal area, and I've worked with diabetic patients predominantly, and ended up transferring or getting having more experience working with people who are at various stages of their cancer trajectory. And this is where my passion now lies, and this is where I'm spending the most amount of my time now.
And how does a program from a kinesiologist differ from just being physically active?
Kinesiology, we study movement. And so we study all aspects of movement. We go from biomechanics to the anatomy, to the physiology, to the behavior, how to change people's behavior, how to exercise train, how to promote physical activity. So we kind of have a rounded perspective, and more our research or our area is differentiating between being physically active and exercising. So we can do the both. And now actually there's a third component to that where we're also trying to avoid sitting. So if you're going to look at the structure of your day or the structure of how you're going to look at your wellness, we try to avoid sitting for lengthy periods of times. We try to be physically active during the day, and we try to exercise. And so in the field of kinesiology, we look at how those components work together and to develop strategies where adopting these lifestyle habits becomes a way of life and not so much as something that you dread to do on a daily basis.
Now, to avoid sitting, would you want to do that because it causes a certain amount of stress on the body, or it's just to always stay physical?
Sitting is not natural. We're not sitting people. Our physiology is not meant for sitting for lengthy periods of time. And I'm sure everybody can agree. If you are sitting down for a long time, and we all experience this if we're sitting on an airplane or on a bus when we're traveling, or in a car, you get up and you feel a little creaky and stuff starts to hurt. That's a demonstration to show that we're not meant to be sitting for long periods of time. To break up sitting, I mean, we can't help it in cases because of the jobs that we have sometimes, or the tasks we have at hand. But it's always good to get up and to move around, to stay active, but also to avoid the lengthy periods of time where you are absolutely doing nothing at all. Because sitting, you're supported, so you don't even use your postural muscles to remain standing. And that's why a lot of people now are looking at the desks where they have standing desks, where at least for a portion of their day they can be standing, because at least in that sense you're engaging your postural muscles to remain upright. And a lot of studies are coming out of different countries, and there's an area of kinesiology that looks at ergonomics, that looks at how can we make a workplace or a home place more activity friendly or more standing friendly. So we're really kind of going into that direction.
Mm. And the muscles in our body, do they tell our story?
Muscles in our body can tell the story, but I never want to say that your story is conclusive. So for example, if you haven't been very fit or very active for a long period of time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that that's it for you and there's no way to change it. So if we have been very sedentary for a long period of time, of course, the muscles will reflect it. Once we hit, let's say the late 20s, early 30s, our muscle mass does start to, we lose muscle mass. But it doesn't say that we can't stop that rate of decline. So even if you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s, and I've had people at the pop clinic at the Montreal General in their 80s all of a sudden start exercising. It could be our past, but it doesn't have to be our future in terms of muscle health.
And why is physical activity and exercise important for someone with cancer?
I'll just make a division between the two of them just for clarity. Physical activity is anything you do that you move. Okay, so anything that it involves movement. So it could be walking your dog, or doing gardening, or cleaning the house, or playing with grandchildren or children, or bike ride. It could be anything like that, but it's usually done without thinking about intensity or duration or how much you're going to repeat it. So it's something that you do that could be at a low intensity, and it doesn't have to be a lengthy period of time. When you start to look at exercise, now we're looking at dividing the task to say, okay, I have a goal. What is my goal? I'd like to achieve that. And so then you're going to break up that long-term goal into shorter-term goals. And then you're going to say, where's my starting point and how do I develop it? So if I'm doing a movement that's repetitive, I'm going to try to see progress, or I'm going to try to improve my progress. So it's more directed. It's a little bit more goal derived. And it's something that you will use to improve your physical fitness levels. Why is it important to have that for people who are in their cancer trajectory? There's a multitude of benefits that exercise gives you. People report feeling better. They feel more energetic. They sleep better. They feel less stressed out. Exercise can be used as a prevention for cancer. It's been shown to reduce the risk of developing breast cancer, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer. There's more studies coming out for other cancer types as well. There's also evidence for being used to prevent a reoccurrence of the cancer type. What we see predominantly in what I do with prehabilitation is if you have a good functional capacity, meaning, like for example, this is your baseline and you have all this room that you can use for like energy that you can dispense for something. And I'll give you an example in a moment. You can tap into that reserve, and that reserve will allow you to recover and be able to handle the stress of, for example, whether it be running for a bus or doing groceries or carrying something up the stairs or facing a flight of stairs because the elevator is broken. If you have a large room that you can tap into of energy, then it really benefits you. And cancer is tough on the body. And so if you have that extra room that you can go to, it helps you to combat the stresses, for example, of your treatment of the stress itself. If you've had a bad night and you're not sleeping properly, you have that functional capacity that will give you a little bit of padding. And that's so important. And so, for example, like if what we work with is for surgeries, people recover faster because they have that padding that they can kind of tap into that helps them to recover.
So it's important at all stages of cancer, whatever you can.
Oh, absolutely. When we look at a cancer trajectory, and this happens a lot in research, meaning anything from prevention to the time at diagnosis, to the time during treatment, to the time of survivorship, exercise is so beneficial throughout that whole scope. And there are lots and lots of people who are doing lots of work that looks at how to prescribe the best type of exercise in each of the phases of that.
And it's got its positive impact as well, I would guess, on mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just draw on, and I apologize for mentioning our program at the Montreal General, but that's what I see most often. But a lot of people just to come in and just to be able to burn some steam and to be able to think of something else. And when you exercise, it releases positive hormones. And so the positive hormones also makes you feel better, that you feel that you can cope, that you're achieving something, that you're doing something good for your body. And all of these factors, although sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes in the middle of exercising, you might not be so happy about it. But once you finish, then all of a sudden you feel, oh, I'm glad I did that. So all of those factors are really important. And as I said before, at any point, at any stage in the trajectory, it's good for mental well-being, because a lot of the patients that we see really say, well, this is something I can do for myself, and I do things I like and the way that I like them. And it really gives people a feeling of self-efficacy.
Now, you touched upon quickly on the preoperative program, a project that you're spearheading with the McGill University. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
For sure. I started to work with somebody named Dr. Franco Carli at the Montreal General Hospital probably about 6 years ago. And so what the concept is that between the time of cancer diagnosis and the time of treatment, it's mostly with surgery, but we're starting to do treatment, we exercise train patients. We give them a nutritional kind of upgrade. So we review their nutrition, their nutritional habits, provide input into that, and then also give them some relaxation techniques. It's not psychological therapy or anywhere, but just some coping strategies to say if you're feeling really nervous or very anxious about something, just some ways that you can manage that stress yourself. And so we give that multifaceted, or we call it a multimodal program, to our patients. And we see improvements in functional capacity. So you want to have instead of them being encouraged to rest and don't do anything, where the functional capacity goes down because you're being physically inactive, we're trying to improve the functional capacity. And so what I said before, you have that padding, we're trying to improve that amount of padding that you have, so that the stress of the surgery is, it's easier to compensate for. I always kind of discourage my students in kinesiology, because I describe exercise as being stress, and it is. When you exercise, your body goes, whoa, what is that? And if you do it more often, your body says to you, oh, okay, this is coming. And I don't like this feeling, but I need to compensate for the fact that it is happening, and that you compensate for that stress allows you to be able to deal with that stress. And so if you, I give the example all the time at McGill, we have a mountain that we walk up to get to our classes. And the first time the students do it, they're, when they come to the classroom, but by the time, you know, they've been there for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, they're basically running up that hill because they slept until the last minute. And then they're fine, they sit down. Why? Because their body has been training itself in the meantime to compensate for that stress. And so that's what we try to do with the bouts of exercise. So exercise is a stress. We give repeated bouts of that stress. The body learns to compensate for it. And surgery is a stress. So is chemotherapy, so is radiation therapy. But when the body is used to getting a certain dose of stress, we also learn how to compensate for it. So the body recovers faster. So you get the stress and then the body's kind of figure it out. Oh, this is how I deal with this. Okay, I'm back to normal again. So that's basically the whole premise of our program at the Montreal General Hospital is to, I don't mean to say to stress patients out, but we do it nicely and we do it with meaning. And because they have, their body knows how to deal with the stress, they tend to recover from their surgery much faster. And that's the goal, is to get people back into their activities of daily living as soon as we can, and to get them up and moving past post-surgery as soon as they can. And so we don't have dips where it's really hard for people to recover. We try to manage that. And so that's what our program is about.
Wow. And how would you go about to get into that program?
Often the doctors in the area know about it. It is a research program, so I have to be very clear about that. We do ask you to participate in our research program, but it's learning how we can adapt this program for everybody else, and then you get the benefit of having gone through the program at the same time. So you come in and we do some baseline measurements, figure out how we should design the program or make it as personalized as possible. And then you'll come in to the lab for a certain amount of visits with our kinesiologists and our dietitians and our relaxation specialists. They're trained relaxation specialists. And then we follow you along your journey and see how you do. A lot of people report that they like it, because I was going to say we don't wear masks and everything, but actually now we probably do. But before, it was nice to meet your anesthesiologist and not be in a surgical theater. It was nice to meet the kinesiologists who weren't rushing you out the door. So it's a good place to be, and everybody's very friendly and very happy, and we all really enjoy what we're doing.
Awesome. And that, to my understanding, it's the only program like this in North America?
There's another program that's starting to be developed at University of Ottawa with somebody named Daniel McIsaac. But Franco, I have to give him credit. He's been we like to call him the godfather of rehabilitation. He's really led the push, and a lot of people, and he loves to spread the word. So he'll go and spend time with people who are asking and hold workshops, and he's not keeping this a secret by any means. So we're hoping that more places in North America start. I know at Harvard, they're starting to get interest in it. There's a woman named Dr. Julie Silver there. There's people across Canada who are starting to get more interest. And importantly, it's taking an international face. We're working with people in the Netherlands and in France, Spain, the UK, Germany. So it's really, it's become a movement over the past 10 years.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What should we be aiming to do on a daily basis?
That's a fantastic question. Usually what we try to do is we say, about 150 minutes from moderate to vigorous activity per week. So that's really, like if you want to think of it, and I like to use the scale of 1 to 10. So if 1 means next to nothing and 10 means so intense you can't keep up, we like to keep it around a 6, 5, 6, 7. So if you spend a half an hour walking at that intensity, that's perfect. Do that through the week, and like I said, and then have strategies for keeping yourself moving throughout the day. And then the more we do, the better. So if you have a pool and you decide to swim laps, or if you decide to start jogging, or if you walk with more, I don't want to say more purpose, but we can stroll after dinner, or we can go for a quick walk where we're hitting that intensity between 5 to 7. Those are really important things that we can do. So we should all aim for about 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity per week. And then we should also aim to not sit still for lengthy periods of time. And then we should just aim to be moving as much as possible through the day to find enjoyment in physical activity. Find enjoyment in spending time in the garden, finding enjoyment taking a walk with a dog, or a partner, or a neighbor, or anybody else, just to find more enjoyment in just being the active people that we are. Registering in a yoga class. There's lots of fantastic online activities that are going on right now. I'm seeing all our neighbors are all of a sudden, there's people in my neighborhood I've never seen. I've lived in this house now for 14 years. I've never seen them. Now they all come and they're walking out in front of my house, and we all say hello to each other, and it's all very nice. Because I think, again, even for coronavirus time, everybody's very stressed out, and having a walk after dinner is really a positive thing. Makes them feel relaxed. It makes them feel that they're doing something, and keeps off the cookie calories.
And do you have any advice to share with us on how to stay safe when we exercise?
I think the biggest thing, is everybody, and it's especially important for people who are in the cancer trajectory, but I think it's important for everybody. Listen to your bodies. If something doesn't feel right, like for example, if something's kind of hurting, or something's feeling uncomfortable, or if you feel that your knee is kind of like bending in a funny way, take it easy and really look at yourself, and don't try to push through an injury. That's the worst thing that you can do. If you're feeling really tired on a day where it's beyond just, I've exercised, but you're really feeling, I don't feel well. This is harder than it usually is. You have to listen to your body. I know sometimes we like to go full out and say, I've got to make up for the last 55 years of my life or whatever. But if you're injured, or if you're not well, it'll stop you from exercising. So listen to your body and work with it and progress at a pace that's natural for you. Everybody trains differently. Everybody's needs are differently, and you're going to have some good days and some bad days. People have injuries in the past that you have to work around. And I think the best thing is really listen to your body and modify your exercises that reflect that listening.
It definitely gives us hints along the way when something's not feeling right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see this with athletes. They're like, I'm just going to push a little harder. And then 2 days later, they can barely walk. Why? Because I should have listened to my body. Mm-hmm. So I think, and we tend to not listen to that little intuition inside ourselves. When something feels good, and when something feels not so good. So I think we really should be kind.
Agree. I'll open up to see if the audience has any questions for you, Celena. If you do, just unmute and go ahead and ask the question. All right, perfect. I guess we did a good wrap around.
I hope so.
I think so, thank you. I was wondering if you could show us some of your favorite exercises, favorite and most effective exercises.
Okay, before we do that, I'm gonna to show you some little tips. I'll tell you a little story where this comes from. Because of everything being shut down, my children play football, and they started to do online football training. And so I started to get really into how do you adapt, because I got shut out of my office without my TheraBands, without my fancy stuff, without my hand weights, without anything. And so we were trying to come up with ideas on how to make their training sessions, online training sessions, very effective. And you know what? This works all the time. So we start with, this is a small can. 2, this is a perfect hand weight that you could use. They're V8, they're from Costco. That's also very healthy for you. But having something like this for a starting point is really good. So for example, if you're doing, I'm sorry about this, if you're doing bicep curls, you've got a little bit of weight added to it. If we're doing triceps, and I'm going to apologize for the twisties, but here we go. So now we're moving with the can in our hands. If you find that this is too light, we can move up to, these are cans of sparkling water. And so now we have double the weight. And so now we have another way that we can work. I really like the can idea as opposed to glass, because if something does happen, it doesn't fall and break. And I've been also sneaky because I use these cans and I actually drink them too. So we have our water at the same time. And then you could use these for the workout as well. So if you're going to do some bicep curls, we're going to do tricep curls, we're going to do some lifts. We could do some lifts out this way. We could do lifts behind us. So all of these movements, now you have some very inexpensive reusable weights. Then what I'm talking about before with progression is that when that becomes easy, so we like to say with exercise that you do between 8 and 12 repetitions of the same exercise. So that means that by the time you get to the end of those 8 to 12, you're feeling it. So you start to slow down at that time, start to go, ooh, I'm looking forward to it being over. So we can see that you're going from something that looks like this to all of a sudden you're starting to feel, okay, and I can feel it in my muscle. Once that happens and it starts to become too easy for you, where you're zipping through the whole thing, as nice as it is, because you're like, oh, I feel really good now, move up a level. So now I have an even heavier can. Okay, so now I've moved up my weight. So now I'm starting again to gear to get to my 8 to 12 repetitions of the same exercise. If you want to redo that 8 to 12, that's the 8 to 12 repetitions, we call it another set. So we do another set of those 8 to 12 repetitions. Okay. This is my ultimate favorite way to do it. We bought these Gatorade water bottles. And the thing that's really nice about that is you gear your weight to how much water you put in here. So then if I have water here, it gets easier to do. I put a little bit more water. I put a little bit more water, and then now it's full. And so now I'm doing these exercises with when I have here 2 water bottles. I think they're like $10 at Sports Experts or something like that. And again, you can use it as a water bottle too. So those are fantastic for doing resistance training if you want to go that route. The other thing that I usually really encourage is just use your own body weight. So for example, I'm sitting on a bench right now to do a lot of, instead of doing squats, kind of up and down, so that I'm mimicking that movement of getting out of your chair and back down again. If you want to make it more intense, don't have your bum touch the seat. Just stop right before you get there and then go up again. Or if you want to take it easy, you can sit down or do less of a squat. And that can be something you're doing in front of your television set in the evenings. Just do 4 or 5 or 6. squats while you're sitting there or in a commercial break. The other thing that's really important for everybody is we have to think about muscle imbalances. We tend to be very strong in our backs because we pick things up all day, but we're not very strong in our abdomens. And so this is what causes lower back issues. So we could do some crunches. So often what people do is from a bench or from a seated position, just kind of scooch up to the front and then just feel a small, you want to feel the movement, and I'm just going to put this down for a second. You want to feel the movement coming from in here. So if I'm on my bench, I bring myself up ever so slightly. I'm not ratcheting my upper body up to do the movement, but it's a very controlled, and it's coming right from here. Bring yourself up and bring yourself down. And don't forget to breathe. So when you're exerting, you want to breathe out. And when you're relaxing, you breathe in. And so you're just really isolating that. And again, this is something you could do during the evening news when we're listening about all the COVID guidelines. Every so often, you could do your squats, or you could do your crunches. A lot of other people like to do planks. They can be quite intense because what you're really doing is you're having your body like this. But what you could do too is do it from your knees and just hold that position. What it really does is you have to engage your core muscles in order for you to stay flat. So start off slow. If you're doing the full body, you can start at 10, 15 seconds. Give yourself a rest, maybe do another 10, 15 seconds, and then eventually you just build yourself up as you go. A lot of people like to do push-ups. A way that you can do it at home too is just do a push-up off of a wall. So it's the same sort of an activity, but you've geared yourself on like this. You push yourself down, you push yourself up. You push yourself down, you push yourself up along a wall. If you have done this in the past and you're feeling pretty good about it, you can do it on the floor from your knees, or you could do a full body. So these are a lot of exercises that are body weight. They're functional because we stand up all the time. We have to engage our core, and we do a lot of pushing or a lot of upper body weight that we have to do ourselves, and it's our weight. And they can be modified very easily according to your ability. And like I said before, if you're listening to your body, you can get a sense of what is appropriate for you. So I think those are, the other thing too that I'd like to use is, this is my eldest son's backpack. We fill it with books. So if you want to have some higher intensity, what we do is we put that on. And if you're going for a walk and want to get a little bit more intensity to it, you could walk with that safely placed on your back. I suggest that it's well strapped so it's not causing any upper back issues. And then you can always also do some of your squats with the backpack with a book in it as well. And that's really taking you through the whole progression. And as your body starts to get used to, for example, the stress of using the light cans, the body goes, oh, I know how to do that. Then you move to the higher one, and then it has to figure out again how to do it. But it'll figure it out and it'll compensate. And then you move to the bigger cans and then to the larger weights, or the regulation of the different weights. And then you have your whole workout, or you have your whole gym, courtesy maybe of Costco, will probably go, and it probably costs you about $5.
What about a balance exercise? Do you have one to recommend to work on our balance?
Balance is very important. What we usually do is really start with a chair in front of you, just to catch you, because we don't want anyone to fall. Really work with standing on one leg, lifting the other one up behind you, focusing on that leg, but kind of pull yourself up through that leg and up in the body. So you're trying to really bring your center of balance above that point. And then switch to the other leg and then do that there. If that becomes really challenging, close your eyes when you're doing it. And then you close your eyes and then you're on one, because you're losing your proprioception because of the sight is important. You find your balance through your sight, and if you want a bit more of a challenge, you can close your eyes when you're doing it. And this is really difficult for everybody. You can close your eyes and then lift your head, and then that can really put a big challenge on it. If you don't feel comfortable with just one leg at a time, you can do those both legs at a time. You can have the chair in front of you and close your eyes, and you can put your head up, but you've got both feet on the ground. So if you have knee issues, or you really don't feel comfortable about being on one foot, there's that other idea that you can also use. And then maybe you'll feel more comfortable, and then you can start to go to one foot or another.
And the brain learns as we go along.
The brain definitely learns. It's amazing what we can do. And as I said, I've seen so many. I've seen some patients that come through our program, they're in their 80s, and I think we've had one that was 92, and really, oh, I can't do this. I've never done this before. But with the support, both of their own families and with the support that they have, it's amazing what you can do. And the body is really amazing at how it adapts. I think it's never too late for your body to learn how to do something new and how to adapt to something.
Excellent. Does anybody have any other questions for Celena? Perfect. So
is there another question that you have, Natalie?
The reason I asked the question with regards to balance is because I have heard that as we age, it's something that we're more prone to doing, to falling. So to really take our time and to focus, there's one thing to do just about every day, to focus just on a couple of moments to exercise and work your balance, because the brain learns that, whether it's some of our participants here are in the yoga classes, and we do the standing tree pose, and it's a benefit for life.
Yeah. Another thing too with the whole falling is don't be afraid to do things that require you from moving very quickly from one side to another. If you have the chair in front of you, if you're on one leg and you move to the second, and I know it seems a little bit like a sports move that they do, the speed and the agility, that's really important, because if you, most falls occur if you're walking around something, because you feel a fall, and we have to correct ourselves very quickly, and those muscles and that speed and agility really is drawn upon in those cases. So if you're walking around something and you feel the fall, we need to correct ourselves very suddenly. So having a chair in front of you and literally, like, I'm sorry for this, but going from one side to the other, to the other, to the other, really helps the brain and the body to all of a sudden get used to this correction type of movement. And it is a really fast movement, because I'm sure everybody here could say the same thing. When you're about to fall, it's like a really, like a jerky movement to try to correct ourselves. So it's important that our muscles are strong enough to react to that quickly. And so doing some of these, and we call this speed and agility. So doing exercises like that, where you're in a controlled environment. I don't want anyone ever to feel unsafe when they're doing something. But if there's a chair in front of you that you can grab onto very quickly, or even hold on to it when you're doing it, so that that's there for you, and to do those side-to-side movements, as long as you don't have any orthopedic issue where you've got problems with the hips or the knees or something, but try to get some of that movement in. Those are really important. I think you bring up a really good point. And sometimes it happens when you're weak, physically weak. If you've had chemotherapy, for example, you may be more prone to falling, or to, you have to catch yourself because of the weakness. But it's important, again, if you're used to doing that kind of movement, if it happens to you, your body knows how to compensate for it. And that's the biggest key.
It's a great tip.
Sorry?
I said, that's a great tip. I never thought of doing it with a chair.
Yeah, it's It's because sometimes you want to feel safe when you're doing it as well. A lot of the times for the exercise, I'd like to always give the example, and I'm sure everybody's seen this before. It's like when you, if you're late for the bus and you're running for the bus and you see somebody come on and they haven't exercised in a long time, it's hard for them to talk, and they're getting their money or their ticket, and they're sitting and their sweat is coming down, and you know, half the bus ride, they still look stressed, physically stressed. If you see somebody who's in good shape, they get on the bus, they've run, they grab their stuff, they smile and they say hello to the bus driver. There's a little bit of sweat on their brow, but they sit down, and about 5 minutes later, they've got their book out and they're all good. And so this is really what we talk to about with people who are undergoing treatment or surgery or whatever. You know, the stresses in life, we can see it as that run to the bus. If we don't have the ability to deal with it really well, we're the people that are like, if we do the exercises repeatedly and our body learns to deal with the stress, we're the ones who are enjoying that book after about 5 minutes. And that's really where we would like to be.
We have 2 questions from the audience.
Sure.
One of them is, how do you improve range of motion?
Range of motion is really, it's really interesting and really important. So I'm glad you brought that up. What we usually recommend is you start to play with the range of motion that you have to begin with. So for example, if I'm lifting up my arm and I'm bringing it around and I'm doing a circle, if you have a shoulder injury or if you've had a shoulder limitation, you might just be doing a small circle. But really try without pain just to take it over ever so slightly further, or use a wall and hold onto the wall and just lean in. We don't want anything to be painful, but we just want to kind of get to that range, like where you can feel it. You feel like a little bit of pressure, just back up ever so slightly, just so you're at that limit, and then keep it going and push again and do that. And you could do that with your arms. You could do that with your legs, in your hips. You could do it with your ankles, with circles. We could do it with the shoulders themselves. So we take it so ever so slightly, you just take it and you push it to, you don't ever want to be in a point where it's painful. So just take it to where it starts to, where you feel it, it's just a stiffening, because all the ligaments and the tendons that you have in your joint, or you're kind of stretching them, but then just come back a little bit, but you want to play with that end range, and then use that for your range of motion. But it's important, because if you, like, and I know if anyone has had breast cancer surgery, just the adhesions that you have in the torso, it's hard to brush your hair. It's hard to put your hands over your head. It's hard to get cans from higher. It's hard to dress yourself. So if it's important, work with what you have, because you don't ever want to re-injure or make the situation worse. But play with that and really start to work with it so that you're getting a little bit more all the time. Because again, if you don't do anything, it's not really going to get any better. So you really have to play with that range of motion.
Thank you. And
I answered that.
I think you did. And the other question is, how do you get a personalized program?
It depends where you are. You can have 2 approaches. One is that you see somebody who is a kinesiologist, who can spend some time with you to let you develop your own goals. So I mean, you can see a personal trainer in a gym. You can see a kinesiologist from. We have a fédération, so we are part of something called the Fédération des kinesiologues de Québec, and people are trained to help you to have a personalized exercise program. I would have to say one thing is that I would hope that you find somebody though and have this frank discussion with a trainer if you choose to go that way. Tell them where you're at, and tell them, you know, I have cancer, I'm a cancer survivor, or this is what I'm facing. And they'll tell you if they can provide you with the support that you need, because in some cases, there's a wide variety of personal trainers and specializations. And so some people will say, you know what, this is a really cool thing. I've never seen this before, but you know what, I'm going to read up on it. I'm going to be there to help you out. And they'll keep in mind your specific needs. But I think that's what everybody should get. An athlete has specific needs. A senior citizen has special needs. Kids have special needs. Linda, you were talking about the garbage truck in the neighborhoods. Well, Natalie, we've got this garbage truck going around, so sorry about that. So have a good discussion with the trainer ahead of time before you start to work with them, and tell them what you need, and, you know, be upfront with it and say, you know, like, for example, if you've had a specific surgery, I've had the surgery, and some of them have had that experience, and some might not. Most universities, if you've gone through a kinesiology program, and all of the universities in Montreal, UQAM, Université de Québec à Montréal, Université de Montréal, Concordia, and McGill all have kinesiology program or exercise science, or they have different names, where you are acquainted with different conditions and different states. And it doesn't have to be centered around cancer. It could be that you've had an orthopedic injury a few years back, or you've had whatever. And it really helps the trainer to get to know, can they help you? Is that something that they can offer specialization or enough support with? Another way that you can look at a personalized program is just ask yourself, what are my own goals? And you can always just say, okay, this is like, what do I need to remember? You need to exercise your biceps. You want to exercise your triceps. You want to do some shoulder exercises. You want to, of course, your legs. That's a very large muscle group, your core, your abdomens, your arms, like all of these things. The chest, very important too. You can take the cans that you have. You can build your own exercise program. There's lots of videos if you want consultation with, and they can provide you with a guide, and you can build your own program depending on how comfortable you are with that. So there's lots of different approaches that you can go to. I suggest sometimes what is really interesting is hire a trainer for a few times, build a program, learn how to progress it so that you learn how to develop it, and then you can bring it home with yourself.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any more questions?
I have some very animated neighbors now who were not so animated about 20 minutes ago.
So
very passionate about their lunches.
Maybe that's our cue to end it here. Thank you very, very much, Celena, for taking time out of your day to educate.
Oh, my pleasure.
And give us all these wonderful advice. Very much appreciated.
That's my pleasure. I just wanted to say, I often have students who come to work at the West Island Cancer Wellness Center. We've had, I'm trying to think who we had. We had Mark and Patrick last semester. We had Emily Riley. We had Samantha before that. I'm blanking. There's so many ways because they go to different internship sites. So please ask them questions. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the fall semester, but they will definitely be back in winter if Debbie feels it's safe for everybody there. But please don't hesitate to ask them questions. And if you see them in the classes, and say, can I spend a few minutes with you afterwards, and you can ask them questions as well. It's a good part of their training, and they love it there. They're so excited to see you all, and please don't ever hesitate. It's their absolute pleasure, and if we can help out in any way, our students from McGill, and I know from the other universities, they're so super happy to be of assistance. So please don't hesitate to ask questions.
Emily's been helping us run some Zoom classes. She has a Thursday morning. We integrated it with yoga. So Emily does her first part first, and then after that, there's a relaxation deep stretch yoga class.
Fantastic.
And Mark and Pat will be doing a Zooming for Wellness with kids in a couple of weeks. So your students,
So you know them well.
yes, and they've been contributing quite a bit. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. They, I have to say that they line up. Like I get emails like a year in advance, going, I want to go there. And I'm like, okay, not placing anybody yet. I think Patrick and Mark, no joke, have been emailing me for 2 years until they get the opportunity to spend some time with you all. So I'm so happy that it's been such a wonderful experience for them. They speak so highly of it.
Oh, nice to hear. Thank you very much, Celena.
You're very welcome. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to pass on my email address, and I would be super happy to answer anything that I can.
Awesome. Perfect. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Enjoy the sunshine and the rest of the week.